everyone. Welcome to Get Busy Living with Total Life Concept. I'm Lauren and I'm a National Board Certified Health and Wellness Coach. And today I'm going to give you some tips and tricks as to how to keep the momentum going once you start a new habit and it's not quite fully integrated yet. So make sure you like this video wherever you're watching it and hang in to the end. It's going to be a shorter video today and I can't wait to share some of this. So the first thing here is that so many of us, myself included, have tried to change a habit, maybe do it really well for like a week or two, and then we drop off. Maybe we're even better and we do it for a couple months. And that's the thing. People think they get to that point and then they can kind of just sit back, or life happens and it kicks them off. And there's so much we can do to prevent that from happening so that you stick to it and really get it into your system at a cellular level to a point where it's actually a behavior of yours, not something that takes so much effort. Because, truth be told, it does take so much effort at first to change a habit. And I'm going to give you some of the best things you can do when you finally get to that stage of change to keep it going for the long run. Okay, so first we need to bust one main thing. You are not going to change your habits in 21 days. I think probably a lot of us have tried that with the best intention and hope, and it doesn't stick. The reality is it's going to take a minimum of 6 months. It could be closer to a year or even a little more. And what they have found when they've studied this is that 6 months tends to be the minimum effort where you are genuinely putting in a lot of effort into the behavior. It will get easier, and I think you have to remind yourself that. But there are some things you can do during that in between when you are doing the behavior, but it doesn't quite feel easy yet. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's dive into that. What do? You're doing the behavior, but you're still a little afraid you're going to slip off. You aren't totally convinced it's worth it. Maybe you're starting to experience benefits, but you're not totally sure yet. And you still feel like you're on the verge of falling off the wagon and not sticking to this. So the first thing I want you to consider doing is that every time you do the behavior, you need to notice what good came from it. You can ask yourself things like, how do I feel as a result of this? What benefits did I gain? For example, if you are trying to lose weight and you change your diet to lose your weight, that weight loss is a long-term goal. It's going to take you a while to get to where you want to be, especially if you're doing it in a healthy way. But by changing your diet, you're going to start to see benefits much earlier. But if you're only focusing on that weight loss piece, you're going to get discouraged because you're not going to see that number move as fast as you want. Whereas if you start to focus on that bonus benefits, the things that you didn't expect, and being aware of those can have a really tremendous effect on keeping you going. Okay, so that's a huge piece here. Recognize any benefit you may be gaining as a result of this. Okay. Additionally, you can relive that experience. We talk a lot about meditation at Total Life Concept and the whole concept that you may go through a really stressful experience. For example, you might fight with your partner. That's going to do all sorts of things chemically to your body, negative for the most part. And when that event ends and then you replay it in your head, your body goes through the same thing. It goes through, releases all those negative chemicals or all those chemicals that are stress related and causes a lot of problems. The same thing can happen if you relive something in a good way, and it can release good things and it can help you feel like you did it again physically. So there are some benefits to thinking back, telling someone about your experience, and letting them really ask you about it and letting them know what it was like. What did you see? What did you experience? Really sweet thing. The brain is a very powerful thing. Very true. All right, next thing. So when you're starting and you kind of got a roll going with this new behavior, self-deception is something you've got to keep your eye out for. What exactly is self-deception? It's the idea that you're kind of tricking yourself into thinking you're doing the behavior when really you're not. So this is a really good time to start tracking. We're not huge advocates of tracking unless it's something that really works for someone. I will totally support that, but sometimes tracking can have some negative impacts. But in this circumstance, it can be a good idea to consider tracking. So if you are trying to maintain workout routine 3 times a week, and you said you're going to do hello, whoever's there. Let me know if you have any questions. We're talking about how to maintain a habit once you get started, but don't feel like it's totally built in. But glad you're here. So we're talking about self-deception right here and tracking and how that can help. So tracking would, and using that example of fitness. So if you were trying to do 3 days of strength training every week, you might try and convince yourself to do, you might convince yourself, oh, I did stay active 3 days a week, but you only walked one of those days. You can see how it's kind of a slippery slope. You are still moving your body. I do think that's worth noting, but it's an easy way to kind of slowly fall down the slippery slope. And then all of a sudden you're walking 3 days a week, not doing any strength training, and you're kind of getting back to where you were. Okay, so that's important. This one's one of my favorite because it does relate me to some degree. And it is that accountability becomes more important than ever in this step. You can get this in 2 different ways. There's professional and there's personal. So on the professional front, getting someone like a fitness coach or a health and wellness coach or someone, maybe even a therapist, things like that, to keep you consistent can really help. And this is the main thing. You get this behavior going in the summer, right? You're like, great, I'm eating salads every day for lunch. I'm feeling great. Fall hits. The last thing you want to eat is a salad. So then you go back to what you used to eat. You go back to burgers or something like that. Had you been working with a health and wellness coach or a coach of some sort, they could have helped you pivot and navigate that. So there's 2 routes this goes, right? The person who doesn't have that support and accountability, they go back to their old behaviors just because of the season change, because our cravings change, our body's needs change. That's a normal thing. But they go this way, they fall back into their old ways and they feel bad about themselves. They feel like they do not have the confidence or ability to make changes again. That's where we see a lot of people come to us. They do not have any hope that they can do it because they failed so many times. And I would argue to say that having that support is a really important time. The downside is here that so many people get to that point where they have established a behavior for a good maybe few weeks or even a couple months. And then they're like, cool, I think I got this on my own. Peace out. And we check back in and we see a little bit of a downfall. Not for everyone, but certainly with some. So I think that's important to consider. Professional help can really be worthwhile and it's worth going for a long time. We always want to, we encourage people to work with us for at least a year because life happens. The seasons change, holidays happen, vacations happen, death and life happens. All these things happen and they're going to impact the choices you make. And having someone by your side to kind of pivot and get through those barriers is going to really help your confidence because you're going to keep the ball rolling. And that's powerful, even if it's not the full thing you thought. And you might recognize that that behavior changes all the time, but you are happier with where you are in the end. The other side of this is getting personal help. A huge part of what I do as a health and wellness coach is helping people build out their own support systems and tap into their own resources. I don't want to necessarily work with someone their whole life, right? Like I want to get to a point where this person can stand on their own and have this behavior and feel confident that they can stick with their healthy behavior in the long run without professional help. That means we did our job well. So part of this experience, and you can do it yourself too, is building those support systems out. So that's things like your environment. If you are wanting to eat healthy, what's the environment you're in? Is your house and your family members, are they all eating junk? How might you be able to get them to help you support you better? Hello, whoever's there. So that's where the people and environment comes in. Same with your city. You may be in a city, a food swamp is what they're called, where you have a bunch of food around, but really nothing to eat. And what that means is there's a lot of fast food and food-like products around, but it's not actually giving you nourishment. Again, being aware that the environment is playing a role in that is important. So what places could you find that might alternatively support you in the environment department when you start to get hungry in the middle of the day and you do need to eat out. Important to think those things through. And this is a fun fact. So a lot of people is believe that the genetics are their destiny. Genetics only play about 20% of a role in your health outcomes. 80% is about your lifestyle and environment and your behaviors. So what they say is a lot of people are like, okay, this runs in my family, and so they think it's that. It's actually more your zip code actually says more about your health outcome than your genetics, and that's because that environment and the people you're around play a huge deal in how your health plays out. I can't underestimate that enough. Perhaps your friends aren't really into a healthy lifestyle. This is where it'd be really important to tap into different clubs and different communities within your area to find people who might be able to encourage those healthy behaviors. Maybe you meet a friend who likes to go walking instead of going to the movies. Not to say there's anything wrong with the movies, but you get what I'm trying to say. A fun one I heard was that someone was like, "My dog is accountability. They let me know when it's time to go for a walk." And I love that. You're kind of doing two things at once. You're giving your dog a good life, you're walking your body. And I also can relate to that. I feel like a dog is an amazing piece of accountability. Being of accountability, being of accountability. And then another idea is technology. So a big thing is reminders, and there's so many apps out there these days that can help you track sleep, give you reminders, help you set habits. Oh my gosh, the amount of fitness apps that are out there, like that's such a great thing to have a plan B of. If you can't make it to the gym or you don't like the gym, there's so many apps that offer like 20-minute workouts or you name it. Anything you can imagine, it's out there, and kind of gathering the technology that really gets you going. It's going to be different for every person. But you got to start thinking about those support systems and what accountability you have built in. So those are some of the main things you have to focus on when you get to that stage where you feel like you're maintaining a habit, but you do not yet feel like you're safe from relapse. So keep that in mind. I hope some of this was helpful. Let me know in the comments below which one of these got you thinking, which one of these things you might start doing, or maybe something you've tried and didn't totally work. I would love to hear all of it. So comment, like, subscribe, let us know what you want to hear about in the future. We're here every single Wednesday, 4:30 Mountain Standard Time, talking and answering all those questions you have about a healthy lifestyle and how to prevent, manage, and treat the most common chronic diseases. So we'll see you next time. Thanks for coming and happy Wednesday.